This thing working? All right. Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm gonna try to make this thorough but quick, simply because my roommates are a bunch of goddamn animals, and something could get lit on fire, or they'll figure out whatever the smell is in Gordon's bedroom, or for one reason or another, this gets interrupted again. So, without further ado, I'm Dylan. This is week 12. We're talking about video games as an art form. And the first question actually reads that the readings provide arguments for and against the potential for video games to be considered an art form. Um, I'm going to discuss what I believe the arguments for video games as an art form, and then after that, Michelle's going to take the opposite side. So, um, first, they're participatory. I think we got that. But it's cool because it sort of transforms the audience role from a sort of passive observer to this necessity to interact, which makes them, as the reading would say, sort of like a co-creator. Um, but what is important with that is that while the interaction is key to making it a game, this interaction must be balanced. This interactivity must be balanced with the message, because it's really easy to lose the meaning behind the certain content and components behind the game as you get deeper and deeper into the gameplay. Um, One solid example of this is the video game Marriage. Um, the article says that if it were named something along the lines of keep the squares alive, it wouldn't be considered an art form. But being that it's entitled Marriage, it forces you to then interpret the creator's views, and also sort of take a step back and look at like your own values and your own views and how you perceive things and maybe why you've come to that point where you see things as the way they are. Um, but with that said, video games, major arguments that they are an art form are because they're interactive, um, they immerse you in the content, they simulate um, whatever the artist intends to move the audience with, and they force you to make interpretations. So, pass that on. Next.
Roger Ebert poses the argument that video games cannot be art. Now, right there, he's kind of making a really bold statement. Now, he uses the word that they can never be art. This actually caused him to have over 4,000 comments on his video with people arguing that he did certain things the wrong way. Now, when he does explain himself, he uses a TED Talk by Kelly Santiago, who actually designs video games. And he says that the basis of his argument that he has is that, in principle, that video games cannot be art. Now, one thing that he says is that no one has able to cite a game that has been worthy to compare to like poets, filmmakers, and stuff. He says that Santiago agrees with him, and therefore it's kind of proving that nothing can measure up to the standard. He also says that one obvious difference between video games as art and that you can win a game. Now that's true because it has like points and objectives and stuff, and like you can win a game, whereas you can't really win at like music or another kind of art. An example of a game with an objective that he might be explaining with could be like the Assassin's Creed series, which like I know they list it in the left corner of each mission. No, Albert says that art is something that you can't win, it's something you can only experience. Now he argues that in the game Wacko Resurrection, which is like mentioned in the other speech, that it's about this war and that he can't really understand it through the game, but he understands it better through the documentary. Although he does add in then in his comments, which also has kind of sparked more comments, that he doesn't think documentaries themselves are an art. Now he asks why defining games is so important, and he jokingly says that it's because gamers don't want to see themselves as wasting their time on something like a game. They want to see themselves and say, oh well, I'm wasting my time on art. Now, someone argued with him that art takes people through emotional journeys, and now Albert argues that if every emotional journey is viewed that way, then it will devalue that emotion. And I think kind of like the thing I think of is that the games that use war and they use history as a setting for like first-person shooters and RPG games, this kind of gameplay seems to downplay the emotions that go with war, and they end up just devaluing the whole idea of death and just like, oh, I can just shoot this person. And it seems like it's really devaluing that emotion. And like I said before, Albert's whole entire thing that he wrote was kind of really put into scrutiny, and there was a lot of problems that went with it. So like a lot of people were like, "Oh my gosh, like this is you believe that? Oh my gosh, this is not true. You said never." And so he really had to defend himself, which he didn't really defend himself fully because he ends up agreeing that in the future video games could be art, but right now he says that they're definitely not.
So the question is, have you had a profound experience based on video games? If so, explain. If not, do you think it's possible that you might have one in the future? As of yet, I have not had a profound experience based on video games, but I also think video games as an art form are in their infancy, much like movies were back in like the silent era, and a lot of those movies didn't give me a profound experience either. I mean, Mendelez's Journey to the Moon, a lot of people consider that art, but it doesn't mean much to me. You know, frog people jumping around on the moon, getting hit by old men with umbrellas. And the video games that I have played that I might consider art, like Passages, haven't spoken to me yet, but the potential is definitely there.
For week 12, question 3 states, does Inside a Skyscraper take on a complex and visceral subject matter, and is it an artistic expression? After playing Inside a Dead Skyscraper, I really didn't know what the game was trying to portray or what the subject matter was, what was the complexity of this game. I just felt like I was a guy who came on a game and just was clicking and going everywhere and not knowing what to do. I think it takes on, you know, an artistic expression because there's music, sounds, people, and they're playing. I have a gadget, you know, uh, human qualities. To me, an artistic expression is, you know, basically supplementing nature. Anything that we can do, you know, that coincides with nature. So it does have that artistic expression. But I really didn't understand the game or what I was supposed to do. I was lost. I died about 8 times, and I started back in the beginning with the guy saying, you know, try again. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. In the article, the Donna Lazeman, where she says, does pointing and click and destroy the game? And I feel in this game it does because I have the freedom to do whatever I want. Like there's that interactivity, but I have restrictions as well. I can't go certain places. I don't get the answers I want to get. So I really was unsure. Like another example would be the Sims game. You can dress your character, you know, do daily things, but can you know run the McDonald's when you want? No, you can't. You know, so um, I had the freedom to do whatever I wanted, but I had restrictions as well. But I really didn't understand the game, so that was my critique.